day, I guess. Cloud Foundry Foundation Technical Oversight Committee for the 24th of January 2023. Agenda for today then, review actions from last week. We'll hear from the Paketo working group. Got 3 PRs to go through, then any other business. Is there anything else that people want to add on there that doesn't really count as any other business that you'd want a bit more time dedicating to?
Yeah, I would like to discuss, I don't know, or refresh our stance on accepting people in a reviewer role, because we have lately had an influx of docs people, and I'm not sure if all of them are actually meeting the requirements. So I don't know what our stance is there, because I do like the fact that we are getting docs people, but I don't know. Like,
okay, yep. I've added that to the agenda. As always, if there are any PRs you know of that aren't already on the list, add them as we go, and we'll address them. Actions from last week, then we were going to archive Stratos, update the charter, do the org definitions and stuff. Is that all done and done?
Yep, it's in one of the PRs that we will review later.
Cool, perfect. All right, Ryan, floor is yours.
Good morning, folks, or evening, wherever you happen to be. Let's see, the Paketo working group, there's probably not a ton of stuff to update since our last update. I was looking, it was like it was back in November. The primary things have been, we've finished out all of the work related to Jammy. We've completely overhauled how we do dependency management. So one of the major things that was holding back Paketo's ability to deliver Jammy more quickly was we were relying on how we ship a dependency in a build pack. So this is like, if you're the node build pack, we got to install node, right? That's its purpose. But the node we installed was actually coming from something that we had compiled and then stored in an S3 bucket that the Cloud Foundry Foundation was, responsible for making sure was available to end users. And what we switched to now is a model where, Node itself provides a Linux distribution of the Node runtime, and so we're just using their upstream distribution. The advantage to the CFF is like reduced costs and infrastructure. You're not having to host that thing yourself. And then for us, it's just, it gets a little bit closer to what users expect, right? They know what they're getting when they're downloading something from the original, node distribution versus something that's like a black box of what is this node distribution that came from Cloud Foundry. So in all the cases where it's possible to do that, we're doing that. There are certainly instances where it's not possible. For instance, neither Python or Ruby provide any sort of distribution. The expectation in those communities is you compile it and make it available for yourself. I see I have a hand up.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, doesn't that affect like SLAs, or are these downloads, or is there a cache or something? Because I mean, it could be that these things are down if you're fetching it from upstream.
Yeah, I think that the buildpacks folks' expectation on this front is that there are a couple ways you can get around or have better SLAs if you want them, which are, you can take the build pack and you can package it so that it's able to run offline, and then your SLAs are your own. And the other part is like, you can rehost these things. So they should be configurable to like be basically you can say, I want these dependencies to come from a different location. And then in the build pack, you just provide this mapping that says that dependency, it comes from this other location. Maybe that location is like some sort of S3 clone repository that lives inside your firewall, say. And so there are like ways to get around this if SLAs are something that you really care about. And the projects, they're kind of, our stance on it is like, we're not necessarily responsible for that particular aspect to any more of a degree than say Node is, right? So like our expectation is that like Node is providing the dependency. They may state some things around their SLAs. We're not going to provide you with something that's even more rigorous than what the Node community already provides you. If you want that, it's completely possible to build it yourself and not terribly difficult either. All right, yeah, so that covers the dependency management stuff. The biggest advantage there is that we've really put ourselves in a position that the next Ubuntu release cycle, our ability to get everything moved out and onto the next version of Ubuntu will go dramatically faster than it did this time. We just spent quite a lot of time paying down technical debt in this cycle to get things into a good state so that we would be able to perform that changeover much better in the next release cycle. In addition to that, onboarding other types of stacks. So there's been recently in the last couple of working groups, there have been a number of folks showing up from Red Hat, very interested in bringing Red Hat's universal base image stack to Paketo. And the biggest block for them has been some changes in the upstream CMB specification that they've wanted to see before they could make that happen. But now that much of that has landed, not all of it, they are ready to start looking into what are the changes in Paketo that would be required in order to support a Red Hat stack. So that's pretty cool. We've got some other stacks that are landing in Paketo that aren't just Ubuntu based. And there may be even more. We haven't gotten that far yet. Other than that, that's most of the work we finished up at the end of the year. Other than that, the major thing we've been working on is we had been collecting feedback about what the roadmap should look like for 2023. The way we usually do this is there's a discussion forum we open on GitHub. We talk about it at our working group. We post about it in our Slack channel. And we solicit feedback from the community, both users of buildpacks and people who are running platforms with buildpacks and building buildpacks themselves. And then for about a month, that sat open and we just collected suggestions and ideas for things we should work on in the next year. And then, let's see, last week or the week before, we just closed the discussion and we're tallying votes on things, and I'm in the middle of writing a couple of blog posts outlining what happened last year so we can celebrate some of the wins the project had, and then what we're planning to do or what we're focusing on in 2023. I can kind of tell you the top line items are, the number one item was ARM64 support with 36 votes. That's a very popular one. The biggest issue on that front is it's just going to be a lot of work. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at now, is figuring out what that's going to look like and articulating it to the community, and then starting in on some of that work where it makes sense. Other than that, I in the background have been working with the other members of the steering committee on some kind of governance changes that I want to see in the project. Specifically, what's happened in the last 6-ish months is that there are currently 3 steering committee members. I'm the only one that's really left like daily, very active on the project. Emily Casey has mostly left the project, although she's still stated as a steering committee member in name. And Dan Makuza is working on the project, but really in a very part-time capacity, is not able to like show up for working group meetings and those types of things. And so I've been looking into how we can make the steering committee process for deciding who's on the steering committee a lot more transparent and a lot more open than what it was or what it has been previously, which was mostly people on the steering committee chose who they maybe wanted to succeed them or just chose to add new members. And so it was a very like, black box of decision making. So I've been kind of passing around, but I don't have anything out in the open formally. But the thing I'm looking for would be support from the CFF Technical Oversight Committee about like feedback on what the proposal is. The proposal is to hold elections, very similar to how the TOC holds elections themselves. In fact, like the vast majority of the document describing how the elections are held is ripped off from the TOC's own document describing how elections should be held. And we plan to use hopefully the same infrastructure just to, not reinvent the wheel for a process that already exists and seems to be functioning well. But yeah, I just, it's something that I'm hoping to get out in the open very soon and then hopefully get rolling as well, just because for me, there's just a particular burden on myself being the only real active steering committee member on the team. I just am the one who is responsible for quite a lot at this point. And I'd like to figure out a way to share that burden, but step one would be have real elections that will allow people to, come join me in contributing to the project. Other than that, there was one other thing that I was going to bring up, which is kind of a cross-cutting concern, which is a large number, if not all of the Paketo core team maintainers contribute to the Cloud Foundry build packs as well. This has been like a long-standing kind of team structure thing. And over time, the number of folks who've contributed to each project has kind of shifted and adjusted. But recently, the folks on the Paketo side have been talking about how the Cloud Foundry build packs need more support and could be better operated in the way that a way that's similar to how Paketo is operated, just like in a much more open fashion and a much more actively maintained fashion. And so we're kind of going through the process of re-onboarding Paketo folks who've been focused on Paketo stuff onto, being able to commit against the build packs projects. And one of the things that has become clear is that we've got these kind of working groups with sub areas, and our area is within the application runtime interfaces working group. And we have the build packs area, which happens to be a relatively large area within that working group. And for us, the way we'd like to operate it would probably end up being like splitting that area up into like a number of smaller areas. And so I just wanted to maybe solicit some feedback about that, if like there were concerns about us maybe turning one area in that working group into like, say, 15, because that's kind of the scale of what is more reasonable for, say, a set of maintainers to actually be responsible for, instead of the like 75 repos or something that are in that area. So yeah, those are the things I guess that are on my mind. It's a little bit, but yeah, welcome to hear any feedback or thoughts.
I think maybe on the feedback on proposal, maybe if we could just get a copy of the written thing that maybe just as a PR and wherever you would put it, that we can all comment on in the usual way. Is that probably the best way to do it? Yeah.
I think that makes the most sense. Yeah. The way we would go about doing it for us is, we have an RFCs repository, we'd open one, and like at that point in time, I think that would be, that would be the point where I'd love to get some feedback. I'm really close to that. I mostly am just trying to get Dan Macusa's attention for a minute so that I can have him at least look at it one more time. But yeah, at that point, I'd love to get some feedback.
If you want to just throw it in the TOC channel on Slack, at least then we'll all see it there.
Will do.
As for splitting up the working group area, it sounds like a working group decision to me. I don't know if anybody on the TOC has any particular hate for the idea of that many areas in a working group. I can't imagine. No.
Great,
Yeah,
less
I was gonna say,
bureaucracy.
yeah, it's seems like really a working group decision. I think my only concern would be if that, I don't think it's going to overwhelm our automation infrastructure, but you know, maybe we just try it out, and as the next iteration of the working group or the area structure within that working group, and if it seems unwieldy or awkward to have that many areas, then we could see what the next step is, but we could at least give it a shot.
I don't think the automation is used, given that it's a separate GitHub organization.
Well, this would be
No.
for the app runtime interfaces working group. Like there's the
yeah.
buildpacks area there,
Okay.
and Ryan, you're proposing fragmenting it into many more areas with smaller scope, right?
Yeah, so on the Paketo side, the teams are structured much more around like particular language ecosystems. So we've got a set of maintainers who like know a lot about .NET Core or Node or Ruby, and their set of repos are like focused in that one small area. And on the Cloud Foundry side, it's just buildpacks is like the whole area. And it's like we'd like to actually have it be like, the .NET build packs and the Node build packs and the Ruby build packs, so that we then can have people who know about those things and are somewhat experts in those particular language ecosystems can be the approvers for those things, and have it be a little bit more scoped in terms of what they're actually providing approval for, versus we wouldn't want to get into a state where like .NET Core maintainers are like, well, I'm just clicking the green merge button on this Ruby PR, even though I have no idea what's going on.
PHP, I'm sure it's fine, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't see problems. Also, the automation that should work. And if it then turns out that the application runtime interfaces working group becomes too big, then yeah, we can talk about a next step or next proposal. But for now, it's the smallest increment you can do, right?
Okay, great. Yeah, then I'll just engage with the working group when we get to that state. We're currently just trying to get all the people on the team into that approvers list to begin with. So we'll do that, and then I'll figure out how to split them up.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you very much, Ryan. Right, on to refreshing our stance on accepting reviewer roles, Ruben.
Yeah, I mean, there were recently a few docs people that were added. I think one of them, like, none of them provided any like of their previous contributions, and I think I did do a bit of a check on one, and then I found that that person indeed did a bit of work already on the project for a year or something, so that was fine. But now the next one is basically someone new to the team without any, to my knowledge, previous experience, and no proof of that, and it's getting approved. So I don't know. I was just wondering if that's a thing we want to continue with, or that we want to. I mean, I understand it's docs, and we had some issues on that like side for a while. So I don't know if we want to make an exception, but I at least wanted to discuss it here.
Yeah, I mean, I think for these ones, I've been fine making an exception because it is docs, and the scope is the documentation repos, which are not going into anything production, and the type of work is somewhat different. If it were for anything else, then I think we would want to be much more diligent about holding the nominated people to the same standards.
Yeah, I would be in the same boat if we didn't have enough docs people in different places to start with. Then we've got to make an exception somewhere, right, to get them in.
I mean, it actually, like, they can just do their work, right, without being a reviewer. it would just mean they submit the PRs through a review anyway, right? And they just cannot review the other PRs yet. Or they can review, but it doesn't count as an approval. So, but it could be that they are then that they don't have enough approvers to be operational, right? I think that could be a concern. But I thought we also already have exceptions for that in our automation, right? Where we don't require, like you need at least 4 approvers or something, if I remember correctly, to even require 1 approval.
I think that's...
Yeah, but that's the branch protection, which is not yet in operation. Yeah. So that
was
just
I know, but I mean like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
yeah, it was for
would be one reason to add these people.
But also then we are talking about approvers, not about reviewers, right? That's because here.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Are we maybe seeing like a spurt of them now, and then in like 2 weeks we won't be seeing this again? Is there one of the businesses brought on a bunch of people, or is this like an ongoing problem?
I mean, these folks are all VMware employees, and I think there's just been some assignment changes across all the docs team writers within our organization. So it's possible they'll rotate people again soon, but this is the current state of things, to my knowledge.
Okay.
I think that's also some of the problem of like we're not really going to accumulate a large pool of docs approvers that are active, because we typically just have 1 or 2 people focused on those contributions, at least from our commercial support of the open source docs. And so, sure, there are some people who had been approvers in the past on that list, but they're no longer focused on those contributions. So pruning them also is a separate matter, and we should make sure that we're doing that if they're no longer active in those areas.
I think I posted a link in the Zoom chat. I think this is mainly what it's about. Like there is a person that newly joined and is applying for an approver role. And Amelia has some thoughts.
I think I'm quite happy to leave this to working groups to choose how to handle it without there's a fine balance between telling working groups it's a free-for-all on everything and then autonomy. So I don't want to go the wrong way on that, but this sort of feels like something that best judgment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally fine with it. Like, it sounds like there's consensus about making an exception for docs people, and I don't think this will be a temporary thing. I don't expect this to continue for a long time. So, but I just wanted to make sure that we have discussed it. So I think we can just go ahead and approve.
Cool.
Yeah,
sounds good to me.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Speaking of approving, onto PRs. 218 to begin with. Removing Stratos mentions from charter. Probably just wants 1 more approval and then merging. Is that right? Yeah, nobody's shaking any heads. Okay, and
right, so it's not just removing from the charter, it's also archiving the repositories. That was the change I did according to our discussion last time. Just that everybody knows what we now approve.
Well, we've got the approvals. Let's go ahead and merge it. Right. Okay, 516.
Yeah, that is a request for a new repository to, let's say, put the concourse for the application runtime deployments project a bit more, or working group. Yeah, that we have everything properly committed. There's now we will use the setup from the application runtime interfaces concourse, which has a nice separation of coding and configuration, and yeah.
Okay. We already had enough reviews on it anyway, but I'll approve.
Is that based on that, like the automation around was it the stuff from Bosch, or is this a separate?
It has a long history. I mean, it's all based from on the setup from Bosch, but then Silvestre from the application runtime interfaces working group, yeah, put it in a nicer format so that you can have the configuration of your teams and URL and everything in a separate project than the coding of setting up. So they are using, I don't know, Terraform, TerraGrunt, and such tools to set it up. And they gave a presentation.
Yeah,
there's
but
also
is this like,
yeah.
But is this project the project specific configuration, or is this like the common? Is there still common tooling that could be reused by other working groups? Like, can
There is common tooling
Bosch
inside,
group-
and they have a documentation what a new team should do and how to reference this other project so that you just have the configuration in your project. I haven't played around with it yet, so that's why it's a bit vague what I'm saying, but the idea is that in this project we are talking about, there should be only the configuration and not the tooling itself. The tooling we plan to reference, and I think it's from the application runtime interfaces infrastructure repository. I don't know if this one again references to the original Bosch repository or not. This is something I don't know at the moment.
Yeah, because like ideally we don't have many of these things, because like ideally we have a common thing that multiple working groups use.
Yeah.
But this is the project specific configuration anyway, right? So
for this project here, we should have only project specific configuration, and we hope that we can reference the tooling either from application runtime interfaces or from the original Bosch concourse. This is something, yeah, I can tell probably then in 2 weeks or something like that when we have done this. We have here a slight urge because we got a mail from Google that certain APIs run out of maintenance rather soon. So our concourse will stop working if we do not act. That's why. Yeah, we have to do something now. Otherwise, there are no CF releases anymore, which would be bad.
Any objections to merging then? Oh, we've got 5 approvals on it, but last call. No, there are no unhappy faces, so confirm merge. Right, 226, it's an issue this time. I didn't know whether
that's just the peer
Stratos.
issue to 218, right?
Yeah, I didn't know whether we wanted to just close it or if we wanted to leave a note and close it. Like, I don't know. Do we have?
Solved by,
I can leave a note and close it, just saying that 218 is going to archive Stratos since there are no proposed maintainers for it.
Thank you very much. I'll close that one off then. Tick it off the list is what I mean. Right. Are there any other PRs anybody else thinks we should look at? Nope. Okay. Any other business?
there's an old old Diego CI repos. I think archiving requires TOC approval.
Yes, I did see that one, but then I went, that seems like a working group thing. I didn't know the archiving required approval. Let me grab that.
Creating new repos and deleting old ones.
Yeah, Amelia also hasn't weighed in on this either. I mean, we would also need the working group approval if it's affecting the
Okay.
scope of any working group.
So Amelia's review has been requested. Okay, well, in that case, let's just wait. Not a lot we can do without the
Yeah, and
working
I
group's
pinged the
approval.
submitter to actually add they were just removing the repos from the app runtime platform scope, which would put them just back into active but unclaimed territory, which we don't want. So
Yep.
I requested that they put the archive flags on them. They hadn't done that yet.
Seems like that then. It's just can wait. Any others? Any other business? No? Alrighty, folks. Oh, no, sorry, go on, Ben.
There is this Bosch packages and Bosch I want to consolidate Bosch packages. Ruben, do you want to
Yeah, I think
discuss this
that.
one? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just requires one more approval.
Have we got a link? Can you add it to the?
It's 512.
So I think to the.
So the idea was to transfer the repositories and then to merge the PR, right? So that the automation doesn't create empty repositories.
No, it was the other way around. I want empty repositories to be created first, and then they can be deleted, and then.
Okay, well, whatever.
I think that is better, but I don't know.
I don't know either.
One way to find out.
Maybe we should transfer them first.
Because then
The
they are
problem
there
is
and
then-
the automation, they should not interfere, right? Or maybe just set the description.
Is there a risk
Yeah.
that by merging it first, create empty repository, then deleting it, is there a risk that something gets merged and recreates them just as you are about to move them in?
Yeah.
Or is that just not likely to happen?
I'm wondering. I think actually that if the repositories exist, these people would need to be admins to be able to delete them. So that's not ideal.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, but I think that the main thing we need the approvals, and then maybe we shouldn't merge it yet before it's done. But also there's a task to enable repository creation for people in the organization, because that would allow because it's quite a lot of repositories and there's like changes that need to happen in CI to orchestrate like that go at the same time, basically. It would be good if the people that are already in the working group are able to, like, that are in the Bosch team are able to do these things themselves. They are already admins on the repos in the Bosch org or the Bosch IO org, but they also need repo creation permissions to be able to move it to the org. So, but that will enable everybody that's part of the org, I think, to create repositories.
Okay, that's a bit risky.
Yeah.
Is it though? I mean, what's the?
I mean, how do we turn it on?
I think that's just a setting.
Okay, so it's just a clicky.
Yeah, it's just a click, and then we have it enabled, and I mean, we can do it for a limited amount of time, basically.
Yeah,
Let's
so
we
if you
do
could
it
get
for
the
2 weeks.
people together in a room to do it, I don't see the harm in enabling it for a small period of time that nobody else would know about anyway.
Except for this call is public, but
Well, yeah, but as long as you don't, as long as you don't discuss the time, it'll be great, right?
Yeah.
but then they need to watch it all to the end.
That's true. That's true. Okay, well, I don't. Is this a thing for the working group to sort out? Does it need us to do anything today? I'm not quite sure what the path forward is.
I mean, the moving of repositories is a TOC approval, but I think we mostly got that except for from you, Andy.
Oh,
So
well, yeah.
But it's more about that permissions thing, I guess. Like like that will require someone from the TOC to do that. I'm happy to make that change, but we just need to have consensus about it being okay to do.
I mean, the worst thing that can happen is that we have a bunch of unmaintained repositories that need to be cleaned up afterwards. So there's no real threat, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we have tooling also to find those, so it should be fine.
Yeah.
But are those not deleted automatically by the automation if they are not part of the YAML file we have to describe them?
Yeah. I don't believe so, but that would be like a reason to create the repositories first. Chris, you have moved repositories before. What was the procedure there?
I'm not exactly sure what the proper procedure is now. But yes, in the past, it's pretty straightforward. As long as someone's an admin of the other organization, they can transfer it over, and as long as there's no conflicting licenses, that's really not much of an issue. But now with the automation, I guess as long as the PR is in. So yeah, we just it should be covered under the CLA. So whoever's contributing the code should sign a CLA, and that's about it really. As long as it's compatible with the Apache 2 license.
So in that case, does this need merging today, or does this need merging next week or the week after, once
I
the
think we
repos have
should
been
merge
moved?
it once they all have been moved.
Okay. So
I'll put
then,
a comment in there.
Cool.
Convert it to a draft, maybe. Maybe that will make it more visible that we don't merge it. Put a note and a draft.
yeah, go. As long as you don't forget to undraft it when it's ready, because the view we use excludes drafts in the community board.
Yeah, that was the idea.
Cool, perfect. All right then. Yeah, any others that we need to look at then? Final call for any other business? No? Cool. Well, let us go have an evening or a day or whatever it is you fancy having. Right. I'll see you all next week, folks.
Wow.
See you.
Catch you
Bye-bye.
in a bit.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.